Well, we could just flap our gums and talk about players we like, but why not categorize them? Fab'S
right.
here, our Hall of Famer, has decided to create a few tiers of quarterbacks. We're going to talk about when to draft them, what players you believe will perform at the highest levels this coming 2018 fantasy football season. You already got 4 sitting there. Is this tier 1, Fab'S?
That is tier 1, my friend. And basically, tiers are you're categorizing players who have very similar value or very similar ceilings. Because what's the difference between 1 and 4 in a position? Well, in this case, there's not much of a difference. And we start off there with Aaron Rodgers at number 1. You know what you're getting with A-Rod. This guy, year in and year out, put up big numbers. Last year, missed some time, but he was on pace to be the QB3. And if you look at him historically, I mean, this guy has just put up monster numbers year in, year out, regardless of the talent around him. So Aaron Rodgers will be the first quarterback picked, but I don't think he should be picked until the 5th or 6th round because I won't get him because of the depth of the position. Then you've got Tom Brady, of course, who year in and year out is the man. No matter what, 41 years old, doesn't matter. He defies father time. A guy who over in his last 4 years, QB3, QB15 because he had the 4-game suspension, QB2, QB8. Then let's look at Russell Wilson, who's also the top quarterback coming off of the board last year. Put up a very solid stat line for fantasy fans.
And Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson is the one player that doesn't have the resume. But if you look at what he did last year, he averaged over 27 fantasy points per game money. Over a 16-game schedule, he would have scored more points than any player in the history of fantasy football. He's got a high ceiling. Let's put it that way.
I just want to point out, we opened up our Aaron Rodgers commentary with a pass to Geronimo Allison.
Deep sleeper.
And he's not happy. What did he say about those young receivers? Yancey, you're all right, but the rest of you?
He's still a deep sleeper.
All right, let's go to tier 2.
All right, let's do it. And we're going to start off with Cam Newton, who over the last 4 years, he's kind of been up and down. He's been the top 10 QB twice. He's been out of the top 10 twice. But that running ability is what is always going to make him very valuable.
We got another one?
Carson Wentz is also in my tier 2.
But Carson Wentz in there.
On his status, of course, because Wentz, right now, looks like he's going to be ready for week 1. He's coming off the ACL. And if you look at his numbers last year, Money, before he went down, he was on pace to be one of the 3 best quarterbacks based on fantasy points. Has a lot of talent there in Philadelphia. The one question is the knee, so keep tabs on his status.
So what is a round? Give me a round for Carson Wentz. Because
Those
you don't
guys
like
are
drafting
going later.
quarterbacks.
For me, Cam Newton's not pickable until the 8th round. And Carson Wentz will probably be an 8th or 9th round pick.
Okay, I know I'm making you go back to tier 1, but what about Russell Wilson? We know Aaron Rodgers always goes high, and then it seems like there's a little bit of gap.
Rodgers is 5 or 6, Brady's 6 or 7, Wilson's probably 7, and Deshaun Watson is also in that 7th or 8th round.
We are starting to get into Fab'S territory, and I'm insulted that Drew Brees is still up here, by the way. You know that, because he's in my tier 1, and everybody else is below him.
I had him last year.
So what's tier 3? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football when you look at consistency. A guy who's been in the top 10 3 straight seasons, and now you could argue, Money, he has better talent around him there in Minnesota. We're also talking about players like Matthew Stafford and Drew Brees, who you love, but last year his numbers really dropped. Andrew Luck is also in this tier, and Andrew Luck, he could actually move up a tier depending on what happens in the rest of training camp because he's looked good so far. And you've also got Jimmy Garoppolo.
You're putting Jimmy Garoppolo after 5 games.
In his 5 starts last year.
I got Phillip Rivers right here and Jimmy Garoppolo.
10 because I like the ceiling with Garoppolo. I really do.
You and your fancy young folks. I know he's handsome and he's got the dot in his chin, but I'm insulted.
He also performed well in those 5 games without Pierre Garçon. He's got a great rapport going with Marquise Goodwin. So when you look at a quarterback who you want to draft later, maybe in the 10th, 11th, or even 12th round, if you like to wait on quarterbacks like I do, Garoppolo will be on the board, and I promise you, he is going to be a big-time breakout candidate for fantasy fans.
You think you're going to win a fantasy championship with Jimmy Garoppolo?
I've won fantasy championships with Matt Moore, my friends.
Unbelievable.
Let's put it that way.
All right, we got 2 slots left. What are we doing?
Phillip Rivers is also in this tier.
Finally.
And you've got Ben Roethlisberger as well. So
but only
these are the
at
guys
home, right, Fab'S?
These are the guys who are going to be drafted late, who you can use as QB1s. Regardless, they're going to be valuable assets. Wait on quarterbacks.
How about this little nugget? As I'm getting ready for my first preseason game with the Chargers against the Cardinals, you'll see that here on NFL Network. Phillip Rivers, more touchdown passes the last 2 years than any other quarterback, 61.
Yeah.
But I never guessed that.
He's in my 4th tier, which may not be 1, 2, or 3, but at this position, it's pretty good.
And here is tier 4.
Yes, that's tier 5, right?
All right. Tier 5?
Tier 4.
Tier 4 is there, tier 5 is there. A lot of tiers.
This is tier 3, that's tier 4.
Hey, you know who's got tiers? You, when you don't make the playoffs this year with Jimmy Garoppolo.